Coming up on today's After News, a worrying update on CM Punk.
Outside the box plans for AEW Star's return.
AEW set to run the Tokyo Dome alongside New Japan.
And everything we know about the surprise return of World of Sport Wrestling.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Michael Hamflett.
And this is the After News. So what is the deal, Michael Hamflett, with CM Punk? He's obviously been out since January with a triceps injury. Yes, he returned to screw Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle, and then Drew McIntyre killed him at the subsequent SmackDown in Chicago. So this has led to a lot of speculation as to his status within WWE right now. Is he going to be back wrestling at, let's say, SummerSlam? Well, it's not looking great at the time being, because Sean Ross Sapp was talking on Fightful Select's Q&A podcast, one of the best podcasts out there, you know, that's not ours, and was asked about what's going on with Punk and a bit of an update on his injury status. And Sapp noted that as of this Friday, Punk didn't get any clearance. He said he wasn't cleared as of last Friday. That's why they had to get creative with him. That's why, basically, you didn't see Drew McIntyre kill him backstage at SmackDown. Instead, he just brought out Punk with like the clown makeup around his mouth and then dumped his corpse at ringside, effectively. So one would hope that he's just on the road to recover and he will be back in time for SummerSlam. But for the time being, concerning in terms of how long he's still taking to recover from this. But it is a triceps injury. These things take time, I suppose.
Indeed. Of course, we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't explain. It wasn't the only reason why we didn't see the attack on SmackDown. It's because otherwise we wouldn't have seen the complete cinema that was the raising of the Allstate Arena garage door. No, we were talking about this in the office. Wrestling is a strange industry. When you saw Drew really aggressively throw Punk to the ground, despite how brutalised he looked, that makes your wrestling brain go, oh, he's cleared.
Yes.
Great. Like, had you have seen Punk do, had there been no
just laid
whatsoever,
out,
then your wrestling brain would have gone, no, things aren't right. So I think that was why this one was a little bit more up in the air, wasn't it? And of course, the angle was such a heavy heat one. They're still building to a match, even if it can't be the match. Like this,
they haven't had a match yet, and it's one of the most highly anticipated things of the year.
The pay-per-view calendar continues to tick on. Times are marches forward, and this feud just gets hotter, doesn't it? SummerSlam has been the long rumoured destination based on the timeline for Punk's return, and yet massive angle at WrestleMania, massive angle at Clash at the Castle, tons of little interstitials on television along the way. I have absolutely no doubt that whenever they do get to this match, based on Punk's physical condition, the ongoing recovery of Drew McIntyre, his work through a few injuries of his own along this road, wasn't going to miss Glasgow, I would imagine, for anything. But I have no doubt that when they finally actually get in the ring, it's going to be the hottest it's been. They will build this perfectly.
If they make that a number one contenders match, it doesn't really matter out of Priest and Gunther. One would assume Gunther, who wins the world title, because you can pitch
Seth at this point,
or Seth. You could pitch that match, couldn't you?
Yeah. 100%. We talked about this at length. The booking of the sort of the top of Raw and increasingly SmackDown, but especially the Raw title picture at the moment in and around Damian Priest, with tremendous respect to him, being almost like not the least over, but the guy that's not quite the biggest star being the one to have the belt, means what you have is a laundry list of guys that could theoretically win it, the ones that you were visualising. So you go from potentially Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank to potentially Gunther at SummerSlam to potentially Drew or Punk again after the fact, and on it goes. And then by the time you get to the end of that run, it's Rumble season, and then everything's back up for grabs ahead of
the Money in the Bank contract.
Indeed, of course, which of course is going to be won by Jey Uso. But that's for the tag belts. We don't need to worry about that. The best fantasy booking's already out there on YouTube if you want to go check it out. Get well soon, CM Punk.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I guess if you can only keep talking, well, that's the best content out there anyway. So all is well. As a direct opposition to that, potentially, we have an update on an absentee within AEW, very much an AEW original, wrestled the very first match on the very first Dynamite.
God, yeah.
Sami Guevara obviously has been gone for quite a while now. I guess the suspension that he suffered following the match against Jeff Hardy, suspension he was served, has come to an end, but what hasn't is his absence from television and this sabbatical at the time being. And again, from the same Sean Ross Sapp podcast, he revealed, quote, "I've heard there have been some talks, some creative plans for him, a little bit outside the box stuff planned for him, which is good, because I don't think you need to have him with Chris Jericho anymore." Couple of things there, of course. Whenever Chris Jericho starts a new stable, you immediately point to Jake Hager and Sammy Guevara as people that are going to be involved. Hager no longer with AEW, and no longer, obviously, Jericho's giant heater that is now with Big Bill. And seemingly, Sammy Guevara not Jericho's right-hand man. Brian Keith, although injured for Forbidden Door, has taken up that role on
the bad apple.
as part of a stable that I can't remember the name of.
I'm Luring Tree.
You saying that like that is literally the only thing I like about this entire life. So maybe Sami Guevara can thank himself lucky.
Maybe Jeff Cobb.
Yeah, I guess as a
By
cameo.
association.
Maybe Sami Guevara can thank himself lucky he's not part of it. But outside the box, I mean, if you look at Sami Guevara's trajectory within AEW, it doesn't really feel like it's been inside it very much anyway.
No.
There's been heel turns, babyface turns, there's been like controversy, there's been some real life stuff mixed in with the fiction. As we say, 2 different Jericho stables that at different times seem to have him positioned and poised as the guy to break out. There was, of course, the fact that he was a pillar within AEW when the 4 pillars was very much a push narrative, and we've seen the sort of different directions all of those have taken. Outside the box.
It's a very different AEW from when he went away. Swerve's
Very
champ,
much so,
Ospreay's
yeah.
all over the show. MJF's obviously back now.
I've got the idea, I think.
Go on.
Should we pick his opponent from inside the box?
All in Wembley, Sami Guevara versus, of course, the inside the box, or inside the bag booking for a return was, of course, Kip Sabian.
Yes. Wow.
Sami Guevara versus?
This is outside the box, all right. Layla Hirsch.
I've got a similar sort of opponent, Keith Lee.
Oh my God.
Take your pick.
Right,
Tony.
so we've got 2 things there. Him getting tapped out by Layla Hirsch in a submissions match at Wembley, or him getting basically trucked into the stands in this...
Bounce onto Collision.
I need the Adam Cole spot
Yeah.
back again when Keith Lee makes his return.
Yes.
Like, you know how he first made his debut and it's like, that's how you do it. Like, now that spot is how you get him all the way back over again.
Yeah, with Sami, I really think he's a phenomenally talented wrestler. Obviously, he's got his issues, let's say. But I think he's brilliant, and I hope when he comes back, he's, fighting at the very top level, because his in-ring skills merit that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he just wants to go. He's a new father, isn't he? So maybe he's just busy with that at the moment, and that's his priority, which is kind of fair enough. They've obviously made allowances for the past. Like Hangman Page did something similar, didn't he? As well.
It's a secondary job after taking bumps for a living, being a parent. So checks out.
But we'll keep posted. Hopefully, we saw and we talked about in the news this morning, which you'll be able to check out. We'll show you a link later on as we wrap up this news about Britt Baker's return. So hopefully, Sami's isn't too far behind as well.
Another original.
But sticking with AEW, it looks like they are set to run the Tokyo Dome alongside New Japan and just, a whole host of other companies. Obviously, we've had 3 years of Forbidden Door now. That happened last night, and we'll be reviewing it on the What Culture Wrestling podcast later on today. And, of course, Miller's going to have ups and downs. Might be out now already. I don't know. But... during Forbidden Door, it was announced that New Japan are going to run a show called Wrestle Dynasty?
Yeah.
Dynasty?
Dynasty, yeah.
Oh, good. That conversation
That again.
It's Dynasty. We're English. We know how to talk. It's going to take place in the Tokyo Dome on Sunday, January 5th.
Yeah. So it's kind of a cheeky little 2-nighter Wrestle Kingdom, but not.
Yes.
They're outright. So you remember when they did the 3rd night and it was an integrated night? This time it's 2nd time with everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's not just New Japan and AEW. On the logo, on the thing, you had the CMLL logo as well, Stardom, and Ring of Honor as well. So that's
Plus AEW. Plus
six promotions?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Big night.
The teaser they released, you've probably seen this on X as well, similar to the sort of theme of Forbidden Door, saying the door finally opens on Japan. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've never obviously run like an AEW X New Japan show over there.
Nope.
You're spoilt for choice with talent, especially if you're including the likes of CMLL and Stardom and what have you. Hopefully that means we'll get more women's matches.
Well, more women's matches, and I think more of a integration of the New Japan wrestlers. And look, I speak as somebody that doesn't know because I've lost track with New Japan at this point. But of the New Japan wrestlers that New Japan want to push and profile, rather than the maybe big names from 5 to 10 years ago, your Tanahashis, your Naitos, and people that for the longest time were the ones you wanted to see integrated with AEW. Now New Japan are trying desperately to make new stars. They've lost Okada and Ospreay this year alone, but they're also in the process. They're never not rebuilding, but it especially feels like they're having to rebuild with such major absentees or major retirees or people like Tanahashi moving into a presidential role, and they're in need of big stars of their own. And if AEW wrestlers are going to the Tokyo Dome, they stand a chance of those stars getting big wins on their kind of biggest stage. You've also got, presumably, whoever wins the G1 winning, or at least competing for the title at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yes.
So the night before. So they could be in action as their first title defense, might be against an AEW wrestler, or indeed on this huge stage, you immediately get that big moment, and then the next night you're defending your title. they could fold all that into it.
I don't think he's winning the G1, but this could be a huge night for Takeshita.
Takeshita, indeed. And all he needs, remember, is that one of the wins over, somebody that could potentially win the G1, and then that kind of keeps his hand in New Japan. I'm thinking Zack Sabre Jr. this year. His performance last night and the way he talks himself up as this guy that wants to.
I don't know. Is he on Naito's side of the bracket or no? I don't know.
Can't remember. But either way, I feel like the years he's put in make him a very, very viable world title candidate. Cracking match with Orange Cassidy to go watch if you haven't seen it, Forbidden Door already. But I guess we will see.
My 2 dream matches, because I'm bloody clueless about this sort of thing, are just banter matches.
Okay.
And that is Bullet Club versus the Outrunners. Excellent show from them. I saw the clips. Thank you to everyone who shared them. Miller shared a bit of it as well, possibly even the entire match of the Outrunners versus Orange Cassidy. Excellent work, lads. And Toru Yano versus Dalton Castle. Thank you very much.
Obviously. Probably just run back Evil versus Chris Jericho for me. Let us know the comments in below what your Wrestle Dynasty dream matches would be. Fresh off Forbidden Door.
All those companies, it's like there's a whole world of sports that's going to be taking place.
That is why he's a broadcast
in the Tokyo Dome.
Unfortunately, there's also one taking place in the UK. World of Sport sort of shocked the very small world with which it inhibits by announcing that it would be making a return of sorts on Twitter. Last sort of over the weekend, June 28th, I think the tweet officially dropped, but there's a bit more information on this now. Thanks to some brilliant reporting from Fightful Select. They kind of put a graphic up. It was a bit of a way back thing. And there's going to be some tapings running in September. And there's obviously a host of British wrestlers that are available to work World of Sport. Some names you'll know, some names you won't, like the likes of Grado and Shah Samuels and that. Some that have been part of NXT UK previously that are now back on the independent scene.
Yeah.
Corey Brennan, it was, doing some great reporting for Fightful Select here. Trying to find out a bit more about the revival and how it...
The revival?
They wish. How it all sort of came together. There is no television deal. For those that don't know, World of Sport, all the way back in 2017,
was
sounds
on about right.
ITV, which of course drove WWE to hit the panic button and launch NXT UK in the process, thinking that it was going to be some big thing. It was a series of television tapings that aired on Saturday night in the UK. I think they did around 2 seasons.
It's fun, I enjoyed a bit of that.
It never materialised as a promotion. Initially had the likes of Jim Ross and Will Ospreay, and then kind of...
Is Hendry on there?
I think so. It came more of a centralised British product, and it was there for a Saturday night entertainment slot. And then it
was very, if you're of a certain age, it was very Saturday evening wrestling on television, wasn't it?
And they're looking for it again, basically. Yeah. So on September the 14th...
There's an audience for it, I reckon.
I think so. They're gonna run some pre-taped shows and then try and use those shows to shop around for a pilot or for a TV deal somewhere. It might be one of those things, a bit like, remember the Global Force wrestling tapings that disappeared forever and then finally got released years later, and the commentary over the top was like, there's Bobby Roode, he's certainly having a glorious run in NXT right now. Wait a second. What? So who knows when these tapings might ever air, but I suppose, if you're in the UK and you're in the Norwich area...
It's a fun night, that, isn't it?
You could attend, you could have a sort of see the cream of the crop of British indie wrestling. The World of Sport wrestling name, however, will not be used due to a trademark in full. It will be WOS.
They were pushing the logo big, weren't they?
Yes, you've seen WOS, and it's wrestling's people like initials anyway, don't they? That's traditionally the way this sort of thing goes. And just a little note in the report as well. It just says, quote, "We were asking who's behind the revival. We were told much of the old crew is back for this revival. The Goldsmith, Steve Linsky, and more heading things behind the scenes."
Steve tweeting about this.
So a lot of old familiar faces if you're familiar with the British scene. So keep an eye out, I guess, for the results of those tapings. And just one last little thing I want to add to this story as well, because I saw it through some sort of tweet at the weekend. I had to go back and find it this morning. On the very same day...
Oh, yeah.
At the very same time, WAW, which is the promotion run by the Knight family, that will feature actually Saraya making a return to the family business alongside James Storm, I think, for their big event the following Saturday. Are deciding to run a free show in Norwich on the same night. Free show is called September Showdown, This Is Our City.
The Wars are back,
as opposed to,
and they're in Norwich.
So the free entry smashed all across the poster. So if you're in Norwich, you can either go and see a show that is being made ostensibly to try and sell itself to television, or you can go and see a free show that is protesting the very existence.
Made out of spite.
Indeed. Pro wrestling, Brit-Res especially. That old Brit-Res.
Never goes away, does it?
It sinks underneath the sludge, and there's a lot of sludge. But it never goes away.
But yeah, best luck.
Damaged, worn, bruised. That old Brit-Res. What a boom, what a time.
But yeah, looking forward to seeing what Was looks like. Jonathan Was. Remember him?
That's how they might get on TV. Or maybe not, I don't know. Is he still poisoned? Has he got his
He could
chat
do a
show?
talk show segment
He
on
could
the
do
show.
Yeah, Saturday night, couldn't he? He could get the guys on. No, put me through a table.
Right, let us know your thoughts on that and everything we've discussed in the comment section. And if you want to check out all the news falling out of Forbidden Door, coming through the Forbidden Door, I suppose, technically, it's available in the morning news, which should be available right about here. See you later.